Hey, says I'm live. Let's. Yeah. Hey, folks, great. I'm glad that you're able to be here today. I'm coming to you live. This will be my first live in this series that I'm calling WordPress Basics for Business. Now, disclaimer, I'm going to go ahead do these lives. I'll be taking questions live, so you can hit a comment wherever you're watching this feed, and we'll try and address some things as we go. But this is the founding content, the founding information that's going to go inside a course of MañanaNoMas.com. Mañana No Mas has been recently redone, relaunched. I used to have an academy in there with like 18 to 22 different courses, all kinds of different titles and content and different things like that. And to be honest, it was a mistake. I found it to be distracting. I found it to be that there was too many topics. There was too many splits in how people would come to find our content. So I decided to redo some content. And this one will be focused on WordPress for business. Mañana No Mas is a full-service WordPress agency. We largely specialize in membership and learning type websites, but I wanted to make this available live, A, because what if somebody has a question that I can answer online? B, maybe it adds value to people that are looking that might not necessarily come to Mañana No Mas. And at the end of the day, sounds trite, sounds quaint, but it's all about paying it forward. And if someone can gain some value sharing this along the way, then I'm all in. I'm going to jump in with that. So I'm going to put my comments up on the screen. In fact, I'll add a comment here. Feel free. Oh, where did I go? I went to a full screen. I didn't want to do that. Go. I'm going to get back to my comments. There we go. And that's what's happening. Look at that. That's amazing. All right. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm just reading the directions as I go here. Folks, I'm going to go ahead and open up a shared screen, and we're going to dive right into basics for biz in WordPress. Now, I did this talk last week with the good folks at Giver Marketing. The feedback was tremendous. I mean, to be honest with you, the feedback was tremendous. And I was like, you know what? I need to put this on my own channel, and I need to figure out a way that makes sense for people to want to participate, people that want to get more access to this. Giver Marketing is a great group, but the group's this big, and I want to get an audience that's this big. So I want to put this out there for everybody. And like I said, if you've got any comments or anything like that, jump in. It says some destinations won't get comments. If that's the case and you want to follow up with me, feel free to hit me on LinkedIn, Twitter, the Mañana No Mas website. If you've got something that's pressing, go ahead and hit that as a direct message or as a post, and I will get back to you as I monitor those channels. All right. Now, you might be saying, why does Kurt push so hard on WordPress? Why does Kurt do all these things? Well, I've got decades of experience as an agency, and I think this is important from a corporate viewpoint. I spent over a decade working with motorcycle original equipment manufacturers in a training capacity. So, one company was all in on Docebo, however you want to say that. So one company was all in on Docebo, and they tried to make it like a YouTube channel, right? They tried to make it like, watch this video and this is what other people watch. And so they tried to do that. And it was all video based. And so if you are an instructional designer, you know that people have more than one learning style. And so, you want to address, written, verbal, audible. You want to address these different learning styles. And when you have someone that gives you a learning management system that only does video, well, kind of limits the methods of communication that you can use with your students. And so that was one of the things that always struck out to me. I said, oh, if I could change this would be a thing that I would change. At a different company, there was a custom learning management system put in place. Very, very, very expensive. To say very expensive isn't enough. You got to say very, very, very expensive. Um, and worse than that, it was old and it barely worked. People that are in the corporate training space, they're used to working with SCORM. SCORM is a type of file that you can put learning content into, and it's structured in a certain way. And when you load these SCORM files up, they become interactive. So the student's able to pick their path or answer quiz questions or knowledge checks on the fly, flashcards, all kinds of things like that, right? And so there's all these tools that go into learning products. But this website didn't automate any of those processes. Like every modern SCORM-derived website has the ability to load a SCORM file in and a minute later play it, check it out, make sure everything works, and publish it out to your students. Working corporately for a very, very, very expensive platform, that didn't work that way. We would load a file up, and then on the other end of the world, they would take apart that file and then restitch it together in the back end of their website and cross their fingers and hoped it worked. So what they would do is they'd say, okay, it's uploaded. Now this would be like 2 weeks later. So after 2 weeks, not a minute, after 2 weeks, we would go to the website and we'd say, okay, well, now we have to, as a student, try and take the course and make sure that it all works. And if something didn't work, then we would have to troubleshoot that with the vendor to find out what was missing or what wasn't tied together. Okay. So when I take a look at that experience, and then I look at what I can do in WordPress and how I can help agencies, companies, individuals get their message online, be efficient, be effective, well, that's the be all end all for me. I just love that, right? So that's where I come from with that. Now, there's this weird thing where people think that WordPress is hard. Now, the way I talk about it, I try to make things easy. In fact, Dan Dominguez at the Y Institute, he would tell you that one of my whys, they have the Y operating system, right? So one of my whys is making the complicated simple. So I'm going to try and put this together for you guys in a much more simpler way. So why is WordPress hard? Well, honestly, because we make it that way. People that work in development, people that say, well, I'm a web developer, there's a certain energy that comes from, I'm a specialist. What I do is complicated. I'm smarter than you. I personally have a hard time identifying with that because, and it's that way in any industry. So I'm not just picking on web developers. Like if you were to talk to an automotive mechanic, he'd be like, well, the TPS wasn't communicating to the mass airflow sensor, which is connected to the oxygen sensor. And when your ECM was reading those figures, you take the inputs and the outputs, and then that's what we were getting. And that's why we got to replace all these parts. And you're sitting there at the counter going, okay, but why am I spending $4,000? Right? It's the same thing with the internet. So with the internet, developers have a habit of talking in terms of, bandwidth and pixels and padding and margins for design and hex codes for colors. And by the time they're done trying to communicate to a customer, the customer is either overwhelmed, frustrated, or both, right? And so in short, WordPress is hard because we make it hard. So what I want to do is I want to go through this presentation again, which will be part of a course on Mañana No Más. I want to help you understand the structure. Like, how does WordPress work? What's the structure? And once we understand that, we can make a lot of really cool decisions about how we want to move forward. So if I were to tell you about Mañana No Más, and I'll do this quickly because I don't want to take too much time here. Mañana No Más was born during the last financial crisis in 2008. So when you see me making a lot of posts right now about, hey, don't worry about the layoffs, get your side hustle going now, let's get your message online, you can look for a job or you can create a job. When you see me say things like that, I'm not being snarky or picking on people. That's exactly what I did in the last financial crisis. I used to work in the automotive industry. I used to work 12, 13, 14 hours a day. And I made pretty good money until 2006. And then people stopped spending money at the automotive dealership like they were spending, right? And not about buying new cars and stuff. I'm talking about maintaining things, right? All of a sudden, like getting an oil change or getting your tie rod and replaced and a front end alignment, that was like extra, right? Because buying food was primary. And if we go back in our minds to 2007, 2008, we remember what a crunch things really were. And so in 2008, I'd gotten so frustrated with the automotive industry through 2006 and 7 that I was like, I told my wife, I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't go stand on concrete for 14 hours a day and make $50. I can't do it. Not when I can leave for lunch, go talk to a customer about a website and make $700 over lunch. And that's when Mañana No Mas was kind of born. It was like, I'm not making money at my real job, but I can go do this for a couple of hours and generate money. So it's not just for a couple of hours. Let's be real, right? When you're running an agency, you're not getting paid for prospecting, networking, finding people. You're getting paid for the work that you do on the keyboard. That's why when an agency says our rate's $100 or $120 or $150 an hour, it sounds like a lot of money, but you're paying for the work that's getting done, not all of the stuff that goes on with business, right? So in 2008, Mañana No Mas was born. Originally, I was Von Onen Designs and PR. And then finally, in talking to a customer one day at the South Valley Economic Development Center in Albuquerque, I told somebody, I said, look, you can't keep coming to meetings without having your stuff ready. Like if you don't have your homework done, if you're not vested in your own success, I can't make you successful. You have to want to succeed. Mañana No Mas, you cannot put off until tomorrow what you should be doing today. And someone overheard me and said, hey, Kurt, that would be a good name for your business. And so right then and there, Mañana No Mas was born. Our policies were changed, and we really focused on the calendar and the budget. Those are the things. Now, our work is good, right? I'm not a great designer, right? But if someone gives me a good color palette, a good marketing foundation, I can build that into a wonderful website for you, right? Now, hint, we're a full service agency now, right? I'm talking about 2008, but now we're a full service agency. So if you were like, hey, I need a logo developed, or I need copy written, or I need photos done, give us a shot. We've got people on the team that can take care of that for you. Okay. But in the beginning, I wasn't all that. I was all about the calendar and meeting the budget. And since 2008, we've never gone past the deadline or over budget. So thinking about that and thinking about how I communicated with customers and thinking about how I knew other agencies were communicating with customers. Go back to I told you guys earlier, I would put in a file and it would take 2 weeks to get them to unlock that file. Or I would say, hey, we've got a typographical error on this page. I need to get that fixed. And they would say, okay, well, let's get that work order scheduled and we'll get that done, Thursday after next. Well, I knew that they could sign into the back end of the website and make the change while I was on the phone. It's a typographical error. This is not coding, right? And so for me, I decided that if I was going to run my own agency, I would only want to surround myself with friendly, straight-talking WordPress professionals. And that's what I do. I work directly with a lot of great people in the industry that are really easy to talk about things in layman's terms, and keep us really focused on the job and the task, which is creating work and a friendly environment for the customer. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about WordPress basics for business. First thing we want to do is we want to talk about the use case. Now, the use case, and I want to make sure I define things properly as we go through this talk. Oh, the coffee's good. All right. So to me, there's like 3 levels of website. So we got a simple site. Like this could be a single site that's like that long format, and the menu at the top just goes to different sections of the page, right? You've seen that, right? The long form first page. That's one example. Maybe that same kind of information is broken out into 3 or 4 pages. Maybe you've got those 3 or 4 pages, but you also have a blog where you're like once a week you get in, you put up a newsletter or some information about your business. Okay. That to me falls into blogger or informative website. And the main thing there is just they're simple and they're pretty. Okay. Simple and pretty. Boom. Get them done. Get them up. Simple and pretty. The next step is what I call the guru or the author. Okay, now gurus or authors, they're going to have that same stuff that the informative website has, but chances are they're going to be selling a book, or they're going to have an online course, or they're going to have some kind of a community that they're trying to build in the back end of whatever they're trying to promote. So, and this is something to consider. We saw a lot of things flip upside down over the last couple of years. We know about the censorship in Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, and the Twitter files released a bunch of information about how other parties were, involving themselves in our social expression. And so as that becomes more and more common knowledge, there's a lot of folks that are looking at what they call decentralized social media. Decentralized social media is just a fancy way of saying, I want to have social tools inside my own property, inside my own website. So with e-learning websites, with membership websites, it's a great platform to maybe put in some social tools where you're not only putting up an online course, but you're giving the members of that course the ability to comment or share ideas with other students within that site. And so that's the guru and author category. Now, the next one, I just call it, e-commerce, but it's the powerhouse, right? It's all of it. So let's say you have a website that does, the informative stuff. It's got a blog, maybe it does a newsletter, and then you've got, e-learning and community. So now you can do memberships and you can manage users within your website. But now you want to take it up a notch and you want to be able to sell products, or you want to be able to schedule events, right? Let's say that you want to do, a live summit, and you want to have 5 professionals speak, and you want to organize all that through your website and sell tickets and all of that. Well, that would be an e-commerce powerhouse type of website. That would be something that would be next level. Okay. And remember, we're talking about, WordPress basics for business. So when I talk to people that are new about getting their business idea online, very rarely would Mañana No Mas as an agency say, you need a powerhouse website. Let's get this whole thing built over the next 2 months for you. That's not typically how I address things with clients. Typically, I would say, hey, what's an example of a minimal viable product for you? What is the quickest, most budget-minded way that we can get your idea, your concept, your imagery, your branding? What's the most economical way that we can get you out there? And then let's see what kind of community interest we can drive through that. And then as your tribe's a good word. They use that a lot on the internet. Tribe is your group, your people, your network. As your tribe shows interest, add those features, right? And then grow with them. It kind of gives them skin in the game and gives your project a little more stickiness, right? So if that's the way that you can go, that works out fantastic. Okay. So once you understand your use case, then you want to say, okay, I got to pick some services to use with this use case. Okay. So the first thing you want to consider is your hosting. I talk to folks a lot about hosting. It's one of the most hotly contested things in any of our WordPress meetup groups or organizations or roundtable talks that I do. Hosting is one of the things that just really fires people up. Again, going back to use case. When you work with Mañana No Mas, we will take a look at your use case, and then we'll take a look at your hosting needs, your hosting requirements. See, hosting can be $5 a month. It could be $500 a month. And as a client, you're looking at that and you're going, well, that's a pretty big spread. What do I get for the difference? Well, it's up to working with professionals to go, okay, this is $500 a month, but you have a brand new project and it's really just an informative website. You don't need $400 of that a month. So imagine that budget gets kicked back into design, development, features, social marketing, things like that. So we want to pay attention to hosting so that we know what we're stepping into right away as far as budget and expectations. The next thing is the WordPress stack. Okay. And I'm going to talk more about hosting here in a slide or two. So don't worry too much. I didn't skip that. But the second thing is the WordPress tech stack. A tech stack is a fancy way of just saying, hey, what are the tools in the back of this website? That's it. So based on use case, out of the 60,000 plugins that are available in WordPress, which 3, 4, or 5 are going to combine in your website to give you a really good package, to give you the functionality that you want for your users? That's a big thing. Out of all the things that we do as an agency, I think that's one of the most important things that we do, is that we help people do a needs assessment, analyze what tools would work best for them. Out of all the tools that are available, hey, what tools are going to work best for you? What's going to be the most sustainable? What's going to be the most reliable? And what's going to get you the results that you want inside your platform? So that refers to a tech stack. I've got a tech stack of like 10 really great products that I can use over and over and over and over again, that I know work, that are configurable, that meet the client's use case really well. And so that is kind of the power of what Mañana No Mas brings to the table when you decide to work with, when you work with an agency. That's part of what they bring. Okay, help when wanted. How to get help when you want it. Part of this presentation I'm doing today is a do-it-yourself kind of thing, right? So there's DIY, and then there's done for you, DFY. So this whole presentation is, hey, what if you wanted to do this yourself? Even if you want to do stuff yourself, I think it's awesome to have some kind of a power partner or a professional on standby that you can email or call, or hit up on LinkedIn Messenger, something like that. Like, hey, I got stuck. Hey, I'm getting a white screen. Hey, I got a note on my browser. It says I've had too many requests, and the screen is blank except for the heading that says too many requests. These are all kind of like idiosyncrasies that come up through web building, that if you have a professional on standby, someone that you can reach out to, even if you're paying them a consulting fee, getting quick answers to those things will speed your process up tremendously. Now, let's go back and talk about this hosting thing for just a second. Okay. Hosting to me is so important, I wanted to give it its own slide. Remember, it goes back to use case. So what do you need? That's like the first thing. What do you need? And then we start looking at some other things, right? So there's the use case, there's referral. Who uses what? Reach out to your friends on LinkedIn, reach out to your friends on Facebook and say, hey, I'm starting a new web project. What host, for my friends that host websites, what host do you use and why? Get kind of a consensus, get referral from people. Don't just let your fingers do the walking on Google, because Google's going to promote the people that paid the most for advertising, not necessarily refer the people that are the best for your use case. Next thing is pricing. You want to start taking a look at, hey, what is my budget for this? Do I have $50 a month to put into hosting? That's a real question. I mean, $50 a month is $600 a year. Do you have $600 a year to support your idea? Will it generate enough revenue to pay back that $600? Or is this like a passion piece, and $600 a year doesn't seem like a lot of money to you? If $600 a year seems like a lot of money because you're not doing a revenue generation thing, then you might want to say, well, what if I put this on a host that's only $10 a month? How much would my performance suffer if I went on a $10 a month hosting package, put my site up there as a minimal viable product, and let it see how it does? Because $120 a year is a whole lot different than $600 a year. And for some people, that's a driving decision point. So pricing. The next thing is ease of use. A lot of web hosts will have a control panel in the back. Some have like a stack CP, right? So there's a control panel, there's stack CP, there's all these things, but what they are is graphical menus that kind of give you as a user the idea of what's going on in your server that you're renting space on. Think of hosting as being like you live in New York and you have a car, but you have nowhere to park your car. So you have to rent a space in a parking garage. It's basically what hosting is. You're basically renting a space to park your website. Okay, so ease of use. So you might like a site, you might like a host that offers you control panel. That might be something that's a make or break for you. But if you look at some other products like I'm a big fan of Cloudways. If you go into Cloudways, it doesn't have a control panel, but once you figure it out, it's a really, streamlined kind of a way to host your websites. So that's one way that you can go. The other thing is customer service. People kind of laugh at me when I say this, but before you sign a contract, before you say, yeah, I'm going to host with you for the next year, I would send a pre-sales question through support. And I would see how they answer it, what their method of communication is, how quickly they answered, how friendly they were, and how full the answer was. Because just imagine, if the answer doesn't meet your expectations before you sign up with them, imagine what the service is going to be like after you sign up with them. So make sure you test the customer service before you sign up. And I know that people that run hosting companies are probably like, Kurt, why did you tell people to waste our time? It's not a waste of time if you do your job right. Okay. If you run a hosting company and you answer these customer requests quickly and efficiently, you're going to earn these customers. So what I'm hoping is that people that are watching the Mañana No Mas, educational piece here, I hope that they're going to go, oh, that's a good idea. Boom. And then that just gives them a better path, a better pathway to success, as a business that's just, getting started in WordPress. The next thing is a commitment to WordPress itself. WordPress is hosted a little bit differently than like a standard HTML website. And so when you are shopping for a host, you want to make sure that you're shopping for a host that at least has WordPress in its marketing somewhere, right? You want to make sure that if you were to have a problem with your PHP update, or have a problem with your WordPress core update, or have any problems, you want to make sure that when you contact that customer service channel, you're going to get an equitable answer. You don't want to get like, oh, well, WordPress ain't really our thing. You're going to have to contact someone else for that. No, you want to make sure that you are contacting somebody. And what you're looking for there is WordPress managed hosting. If they say we are a WordPress managed host, then that means that they're a good candidate for you and your money. The next thing I want to talk about in regards to hosting is choosing the right host based on your use case, on what you're looking for. So if we take a look at the screen share here, that's actually the screen share from Mañana No Mas. So you can host a site with Mañana No Mas for $40 a month, and that'll take care of, remember that use case where we said, just an informative website, like a blogging or an informative website. Boom, here we go. WordPress managed hosting. I take care of giving you a templated website. All you have to do is go in and change the text and the images. It's hosted with us, and we take care of your plugin updates once a month. So you go in there, $40 a month, you're handled. You want e-commerce, or you want e-learning or membership tools, things like that, you're probably going to be up at like the $55 a month plan. If you go to our website and take a look at that, you'll see how we break those things out. Now, with that $55 a month, we do give you some of those tools and the licensing through our agency to be able to host like e-learning and e-commerce, to have a payment gateway and be able to collect money through your website. So it's different, when you start talking about WordPress, you want to make sure that you know your use case, you know what you're shopping for, and then you know what kind of experience you want. So if you want the easy button, like, hey, I just want a website where I change some text, change a few pictures, and my website's ready to go. Well, then easy button one here with Mañana No Mas is a great idea. Now, let's say your use case, you want more choices. Well, one of the companies that I recommend for more choices is WP Tonic. WP Tonic is a wonderful choice for a host if you are looking for, remember I said that powerhouse website? So picture a powerhouse website where you want to have a customer resource management tool in the background. You want a scheduling tool in the background so people can schedule appointments with you or events, right? So you could do that. E-learning. You could put e-learning in there. You could put WooCommerce in as a whole store, with different add-ons and subscription tools and things like that. If you take a look at the screenshot that's on the right side of this slide, you'll see that they've got 4 different packages right on their pricing screen. Starts as low as, I think $55 a month. And if you take a look at that list of plugins that is available All of those plugins come with the hosting. So that's not a fee in addition to. Those are all the plugins that you can choose as part of the hosting package. So when you host with WP Tonic, they put together a templated website for you. You just have to change the text and the images, similar to what Mañana No Mas does. But you get a list of plugins that you're able to choose from, and you can build a much more capable website within that framework, if that makes sense for you. That's a really good choice to take a look at. Okay. Now, outside of that, there's kind of a do-it-yourself kind of a deal. So if you want to do it yourself, put in your own fresh WordPress install and build your own website, you can do that. Or obviously you could hire, an agency to do it for you. But then there's choices for hosting that are all over the planet. So WP Engine, fantastic, really good premium host. Cloudways, I've told you before, I really enjoyed using Cloudways. It was economical. And once I figured out that user interface, it was pretty simple to use. So I like that. Now, Cloudways is based on DigitalOcean. Anything with DigitalOcean is good. GridPane, I've had some customer interaction back and forth with GridPane. I really enjoyed the way that they did their customer service. I asked them a question and basically got a video back asking, hey, do you want to jump on a phone with me real quick and do a call? That to me was, top-notch customer service. And then one of my favorites, Rocket.net, right? I'm even wearing the shirt today. So Rocket.net is one of the fastest WordPress hosts, bar none, that you can select. They're not the cheapest, but they're one of the fastest. And speed has a lot to do with SEO and things like that. So if you have a sizable project, and you've already got community and funding and all those kinds of things, Rocket.net might be a really good option for you. So I love them. And the guys that work at Rocket.net are a hoot. So I met them at WordCamp in San Diego, and we've just been getting along ever since. In fact, Rocket.net was just added to the preferred lists of hosts with Lifter LMS, which is, as far as I'm concerned, it is just about the best learning management system that you can put in a WordPress website. So that's kind of a big deal. Okay. So we want to make things easy. At the very beginning of this, I said, hey, this is WordPress basics for business. Now, as I grow these sessions and as I do more and more with trying to add content to Mañana No Mas and make this make sense for folks, we're going to go into some of these things in more detail. But for the purpose of this talk, I want to keep things as simple as possible. And I really want to simplify the process so that people that are in business, that are new to the internet, new to getting an idea online, I want to make you more comfortable with that decision. And I just want to help people feel more confident when they start talking about taking their information online. So first things first, WordPress is open source. People say, why WordPress? I'm going to bring it right to you. Why WordPress? Okay. Because I've used all the stuff that's out there too, right? There's Joomla, there's Drupal, Wix, LiveSite by Camelback. My goodness, what else was there? I put Moodle in the back of an HTML website, which was made on Dreamweaver. And so, I'm adding up these fingers here and I'm going, so why WordPress? Well, WordPress is open source. The code word for open source means it's free. So the community is awesome and the support around every corner is just amazing. I've been part of WordPress meetups. Meetups are groups of people that meet about WordPress, surprise, surprise. But what's really cool about them is you could be totally new to WordPress, sign in for a WordPress meetup, and then say, hey, I've got a problem here. And next thing you know, you've got 5, 6, 8 professionals jumping in on a shared Zoom call to help you with your problem. It doesn't cost anything because the network, the people in the groups are so supportive of the product. I didn't even know about this. I worked in WordPress since 2004. It's a long time, right? So I've worked with WordPress since 2004, and I didn't get involved in WordPress meetups until roughly last year. If I would have known how supportive WordPress meetup groups were 10 years ago, imagine where I would be today with the work that I do, right? So WordPress is phenomenal. It's free. The support is amazing. And the choices and the freedom within the platform to me is amazing. There are things called SaaS, software as a service. So software as a service would be things like Udemy and Kajabi when you're talking about online courses, would be Zoho when you're talking about customer resource management, accounting tools, and things like that. Those tools all have their place. Kajabi is a wonderful tool. It's not plug and play. It's not instantaneous because every platform that you enter has a learning curve to it. So when people say, well, WordPress is hard and Kajabi is easy, there's still a learning curve with Kajabi. But when you're in Kajabi, you're locked into their environment. The choices that you have are the choices they provide. Whereas when you work with WordPress, you have the freedom to do whatever you want with that website. You own that website. So there's ownership that comes through WordPress, even though it's open source and it's free to you. It's a really interesting concept. So to me, number one, WordPress is open source. That makes it the easy choice for me. Now, WordPress is two things. Everything in WordPress is either a post or a post is either a page. It's either a page or a post type. So a page, if I could make this make sense, a page is like a website page that's like static. So static meaning not dynamic. It's static. The information is consistent. So like a home page or a contact page or an about us page. Those are pages. Now, posts are things like a course or a lesson that is inside the website, or maybe a profile, right? Profile information that got added by a user, or a blog post. So you've heard the term post, right? So blog post. And so these posts and these post types are areas of data that can be displayed on a page. So when you see lessons, like when you see a plugin and it says this plugin gives you the ability to add courses and lessons to your website, what that means is this plugin adds a custom post type to your website, and that post type, so whatever you add in for lessons or courses, gets added to a database. And then when your website goes to display a course or a lesson page, it plasters in the data from the query. Okay. So, and I'm trying my best to not use overly technical terms, but once I understood that WordPress was all pages and post types, and that plugins were really just a way of adding custom post types to my website, things got real easy for me to kind of unlock the possibilities with WordPress. And that's where I really started to see the power of working with WordPress. So I share it that way. It's like this golden nugget for me. When I was talking last week to the folks at Giver Marketing about this subject, I likened it to, I used to teach motorcycle mechanics how to diagnose motorcycles. And I would struggle during the electrical training because I would say, well, here, use your computer, do this, use the diagnostic system to look at how many ohms are there, or what amps, volts, and you're having these terms, and you could just see them kind of gloss over. And that's when you realize, well, if they don't have a basic understanding of electrical, how can I teach them advanced diagnostics? I saw another instructor working with a student in a tutorial kind of environment. And in this tutorial environment, this instructor says, hey, you see this big spinning piece of metal and you see this magnet? Every time this big spinning piece of metal goes by this magnet, think about what a magnet is. A magnet's got positive and negative electrons on it, right? And so it expresses charge back and forth. So every time the metal goes past that magnet, the charge jumps back and forth, and that creates a charge. That's what we call AC. So he's like, every time that goes by, it creates a pulse, an electrical pulse. So every time that goes by, it creates electricity. That electricity goes down to what we call a regulator rectifier, which converts through diodes, one-way gates, converts that alternating current to a direct current. And that's why the motorcycle uses 12 volts DC. And he described the whole thing. That whole spinning chunk of metal going by a magnet, making it that simple, changed the entire way that I trained diagnostics for electrical moving forward. Moving forward, it helped me unlock so many brains to how electrical works. And for me, WordPress being all pages and post types is that chunk of metal with the magnet. It's what makes the the whole environment of WordPress opens up for me, realizing, well, am I making changes to a page or am I making changes to a post type? And that really helps with me. Now, plugins, once we understand the pages and post type things, like I said, plugins, they add function to the website. And so that's part of that tech stack that I mentioned earlier. So if you want to have e-learning on your website, you want to have courses, you're going to look for things like LearnDash, Lifter LMS, Tutor LMS, things like that. And so when you see those things, you're going to want to jump in on that. So plugins add function. So again, you're a business, you're new to WordPress, you want to get your information out online. So you want to think about hosting, you want to put WordPress in, what's your tech stack going to look like? And those are the plugins. Okay. The next thing we want to talk about is making it pretty. So people will say, do I want to buy a theme or do I want to use a page builder? Because you do a little bit of research online and you start seeing two different things popping up, themes and page builders. This is not an either or question. This is a yes question. Okay. So this is not either or, it's yes and yes. You need some kind of a theme in WordPress to display your content. And the theme takes care of, like, the way I describe it is it takes care of like global settings. So what's the font? What's the global color for links? What's the global color for a background? What's the global color for? Meaning for the whole website, what does this thing basically look like when I build it out? And then page builders is a way to add content into that theme. So those are your paragraphs, your video embeds, your pictures, and things like that. And so when we talk about themes versus page builders, it's not an either or question, it's a yes and yes question. Now, there's a ton of themes out there. And here's the frustration that comes with themes that I hear from a lot of people getting started. They'll search out on Google, hey, themes for WordPress. And you start pulling up all kinds of companies that sell all kinds of beautiful looking website themes. And then you download the theme. You pay them $50, you download the theme, you put it in your website. And when you open it up, there's nothing there. It's a blank screen. Maybe the heading's green instead of black, and maybe there's a different shade or a gradient, something in the background. And you're like, I thought I was paying for a whole website. I want my website to look like the sample. You go back to the sample, you pull it up and you're like, that's a beautiful website. You go back to your website and you got a blank canvas. That's because the theme is the appearance in the background. It doesn't manifest itself until you add your content. So when it comes to themes, I tend to think more in terms of like themes and tools that work together. So I'm a big fan of Cadence. I'm a big fan of Astra. I'm a really big fan, Lifter. If you're going to do a learning site with Lifter LMS, their new theme called Sky Pilot is amazing, right? So that's a good one. And then what I like to do is I like to look at the web builder tools that kind of come with each of those themes. So Cadence has Cadence blocks, and Astra uses a block editor called Spectra. Now, Cadence blocks and Spectra both add tools to the Gutenberg block experience. The stock page builder that comes with WordPress is called Gutenberg or the block editor. They're one and the same. Now, the other kind of page builders that you hear about would be Elementor, Divi, Beaver Builder. There's one called Origins. There's a bunch of them. Elementor, for me, is one of the most popular. I've used Elementor on hundreds of sites. I was a very, very amateur type developer using Elementor up to almost 2 years ago. And then probably about 2.5, 3 years ago, I started getting more serious about, hey, how can I really leverage this tool I'm paying for to make some really, cool websites, things that are strikingly different in some way, or how can I speed up my production process? And Elementor helped me with that. Now, as the block editor gets better and better, it's starting to phase out some of the needs that people have for Elementor, Divi, and Beaver Builder and things like that. So again, go back to your use case and see what you need and make that part of your tech stack, what you want to put in. Now, a custom site versus a starter site, number 5. Cadence and Astra both have starter sites available. And if you decide to go with a page builder like Elementor, Elementor Pro, for example, has tons of templates that you can choose from. Templates are really cool. They're different than the page builder or the theme. The template preloads your website with kind of a pre-made website, and it has text and images and formatting that meets whatever your use case is. So I tell people, don't fall in love with the content. Don't fall in love with the pictures on this template. What you're doing is you want to look at the format, and in your mind's eye, you want to say, okay, if I put my logo there and I put this image here and I put this image there and I replace this video with this video and I put, my introductory paragraphs here, is that the look and the messaging I want for my product? And if it is, man, load up that starter site and go in and replace the pictures, the videos, and the images and the text. Go and replace all that stuff with your stuff. And it's a really quick and easy way to build yourself a website that looks good, right? So using somebody else's template enables you to get your information online that much more quickly. Now, if you are, again, this is use case talk. If you are a mid-sized company and you've got a marketing department and a style guide, and so you've got like all of these folders available that say, here's our logo, here's our colors, here's our content, for About Us, here's descriptions of our products and services. If you have all of that, I would say you're almost in a position to want to do a custom site instead of a starter site, because trying to force all your pre-made stuff into a template can be difficult. Sometimes it's easier, especially if you have a lot of pre-made content, just to do a custom implementation. I want a hero image, I want a text area, I want picture, graphic, video, and you can put all that in with your page builder. Now, if you're still a do-it-yourselfer, and I've talked this far, great, that's awesome. If you're more of a done-for-you or need a power partner in the industry, having the right people on your team can be a deal breaker. So I say here, maybe DIY isn't for you. All right. So in that case, I encourage you to reach out to a provider that consults on use case. This is super important to me. You can go on Fiverr. You can go on, WeWork. You can go on all of these tools that aggregate content. You could hire someone to do a task for you. Okay. Where you're the project manager and you hire someone to do a task for you. That's one way to do things. Doesn't really get you where you need to go. I have a lot of clients that started out that way, and after a year or two of frustration, reach out to Mañana No Mas, and then we jump in and we fix things, we get things going, and 6 weeks later they got a full-blown website with people spending money on it. That's what you want. You want your website up so that if it's supposed to generate revenue, it has the ability to do so. So I say hiring the right team is super important. Here's what I look for when I am hiring, or when I am trying to coach my customers, my clients, on who to hire. So what's the use case? If I am a customer and I am looking for an agency to help me with a website, I'm looking for that agency to ask me some questions. What are my goals? What are my services or products? What's my company motivation? What's my expectations as a client? What's my timeline? What's my budget? Do I have digital assets that I can put right into a website? Do those need to be developed? If it's an online course, is that course pre-written? Does that course need developed? Do they need a curriculum developer? These are all these things. So consulting is very much part of doing a quality web build. If you contact someone to help you with your website and they don't address you from a consulting standpoint, chances are you're not going to have someone that meets your expectations. So, and that comes down to a lot of the dollars too. For instance, you might find someone that you say, well, I only have $50 an hour I can spend on agency work. Well, $50 an hour you can spend on agency work is going to be like, you call the dude up and you're like, I need you to switch out this icon for me. I need you to change this paragraph to this paragraph text. And they can very much do that. And maybe it's charging you $30 or $50 an hour for development, and you think you're doing okay. For $100 an hour, for $120 an hour, for $150 an hour, you should be getting services that are like, do you need us to develop that content for you? That we put that paragraph in this space and it doesn't fit real well. Can we take this sentence out? Can we add a sentence? Can we expand this? Can we, do you want us to increase the size of the picture next to it to give it more balance? That's the kind of work that you want to see. You want to make sure that somebody is working with you to give you the best results possible to help you generate the most success through your project. And so with Mañana No Mas, we have packages. Like I said earlier, we have the easy button. So here's a templated website. All you got to do is change your text and images and you're good to go. $35 a month, you can have a website up and going on Mañana No Mas. Perfect, right? But if you're a customer that wants more of a done for you experience, I'm going to consult with you and I'm going to say, okay, do you have content? Do you want us to put the content in place for you? Do you want us to style that? Do you want us to adjust those images to fit the template more, perfectly? Do you want us to, optimize the website so it runs faster? Do you want us, so there's all these things that we can do as services. And that's what an agency really brings to the table. My message to you is make sure you find somebody that honors your time frame and your budget. So like my policy with Mañana No Mas is we get everything done on time and on schedule, right? So on time and on schedule and on budget. So it's super important to me. I'm trying to make this not a commercial about Mañana No Mas, which is making it really difficult for me. I have a client portal where clients can go in and see all the tasks that go with the project, how long I spent on each task, and they can kind of monitor through the process. So when I said on time and on schedule, it's like, yeah, there's on time, like you can beat a deadline, but on schedule, right? So how can you update clients along the way that you're on schedule, things are working? Like take the pressure off of the client. Like they don't have to worry about it. It's handled. Then the other thing is on budget. So you want to make sure that you don't overspend on a client. You want to make sure that you make things happen within their budget, whatever's agreed upon. So that to me is all hiring the right team. Now, if you look on the screen, this is all the contact information for Mañana No Mas and how to get a hold of me. If you are watching this replay live on any of the channels that we've shared to, for instance, we have Facebook today, LinkedIn, Twitter. We'll be adding YouTube to that over this series. But if you scan the QR code, you'll go right to the Mañana No Mas website. Feel free to call me, email me, hit up the website, and I'm super active on LinkedIn. I'm the only Kurt Von Ahman on LinkedIn, so I'm easy to find. Again, my goal with today's talk was to kind of set the stage, set the standards for, hey, I'm a business and I want to talk about the basics of WordPress for business. So that's where I'm focusing in on this. So in the coming episodes, when I go live, we'll be talking about maybe some plugins in that basic tech stack. Maybe we'll be doing some screen shares for the different hosting environments. Like I work inside 5 or 6 different hosts right now. So maybe we'll talk about what it's like to work inside these hosting environments or to have something hosted for you. Like I mentioned WP Tonic, for example. WP Tonic is a wonderful choice for someone that is kind of like, you want kind of that done for you, but you're still kind of a DIY person at the same time, but you want a lot of choices in the tools that you can put in your website. WP Tonic's a great choice. And they have a white glove experience. So you don't have to get involved in the back end or a control panel or anything like that, unless you really want to. And then that option's available too. So in the coming episodes, we'll go through some of that. We'll also take a look at some of the plugins and tools that are common. Like if you wanted to host online courses, or you want to set up some e-commerce, or you want to sell digital examples of like an ebook, things like that. I'll go through these different scenarios in coming episodes, and we'll start breaking these out for you piece by piece and try and make it not kindergarten level, but I'll keep it as basic as I can to give you the most confidence in moving forward with this as a plan. All right, folks, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, whether it's about the quality of this live feed or the quality of the content, or you want a question about the content itself that's in there, feel free to hit me up, and I'd love to talk to you. You all have a great day. Talk to you. Bye-bye.